Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Alexa, define insanity as a sports cliche.
From MiamiHerald.com. The cliche says insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
This is where we are at as a fan base. We have had some time to sit back and honestly think about what has occurred with this Cleveland Cavaliers team in this year's postseason. And it's odd because there's a large part of me that feels as if, man, we just repeated the process that we had last year and we got the same result. Still a second round exit. Now, mind you, that does not put into context a lot of what we saw this season, because the Cavaliers, in fact, did not run it back. They did not do the same thing. If you are talking about 1-for-1 roster, it was not even remotely the same by season's end. Let's talk about the core four, right? Darius, Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. All four of these guys returned. Of course, they were going to return after last postseason. They weren't just going to start shipping off pieces. Doesn't mind if the fan base wanted Jarrett Allen out after last year. It doesn't matter if the fan base wanted Darius Garland out after last year. Those guys were all due to come back. Donovan Mitchell signs his extension. Jarrett Allen signed his extension. Evan Mobley signed his extension. Darius Garland is already under fucking contract. So you got all these guys all coming back. That was always going to be the case heading into the season. Now, the core, the roster around them, the pieces around them, those changed throughout the duration of the season. First things first, you got Ty Jerome back off of injury. That was one of the biggest additions, and you didn't even have to sign him. He just missed basically all of the season prior, all but 2 games. And what does he do? He comes in, he immediately looks the part of a quality 6th man, and to that point, he finished as a finalist for 6th man of the year. Now, the postseason, that's a completely different story. We already know what happened with Ty Jerome in the postseason, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But at the end of the day, that's a huge piece within itself that equates or dispels the notion that the team as presently constructed ran it back. Let's talk about some of the other pieces. Caris LeVert, one of the people that some fans, and I don't know if it's just me, but I have started to see some people retroactively look back to what this team was before we traded for DeAndre Hunter. That's the next piece we're about to reference here. And make it seem as if we should have held on to Caris LeVert, and by virtue of that, Georges Niang. Now, Georges Niang was included in that deal. He was never going to be a long-term piece in Cleveland, but the one thing that George brought to the table was toughness. He ain't take no shit. That is one thing about Georges Niang that I appreciated. He would be quick to get up in a guy's face. Doesn't matter if it's a star, a role player, a ref, a coach, doesn't matter. Georges Niang was going to let you know how he felt 9 times out of 10. And I heavily respected Georges Niang for that in his time here, however short it was. Now, at the end of the day, those 2 guys were shipped out to bring in what seems as if it's going to be the wing of the future at the starting small forward spot in DeAndre Hunter, a piece that looked to be every single bit worth what he was acquired for. When you look at what he was acquired for, George, Caris, and a 2nd round pick, if I'm not mistaken. That right there, that was a price that any GM would pay 9 times out of 10 for that type of talent. DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome. Those are the 2 big additions come the 2024-25 postseason for the Cleveland Cavaliers. When you're in terms of the rotation itself, if you're looking at it, what it was last year versus what it was this past season, that is 2 huge additions. You got everybody coming back healthy, at least during the regular season. And that is where we get to the first real disillusionment with what just occurred. The Cavaliers had a wonderful regular season. So entering the 2024-25 playoffs, there was no reason to believe that the direction that they went in regards to running the core four back this year There was nothing to suggest that it did not make sense because they finally went out and they acquired the big ass wing that they needed, the guy that could shoot the three, the guy that could defend, and the guy that could create his own looks. All of that in one package in DeAndre Hunter. Oh, and by the way, one of the guys that we did not mention here who actually gave solid minutes throughout the season when he was called upon was Jalen Tyson. You can throw Craig Porter Jr. in there. There are a couple of different pieces that truly made an impact on this Cavaliers team this year that did not make it seem as if they ran it back. All I know is that absolutely nothing was going to suggest, absolutely nothing would have prepared this Cavs team for the issues that they faced in the playoffs. Now, clearly, the Cavs did themselves no favors. Clearly, the Cavaliers lacked a mental toughness. I believe those things are fair to say. I also believe that it is okay to suggest that injuries played a role here. I don't fucking care how people feel about that. I don't care about guys being labeled soft because they didn't play one game or they didn't play two games in a postseason setting. Now, where we have the biggest issue is in terms of questioning the validity of those injuries. Now, you saw Channing Frye, you saw Richard Jefferson, you saw Kendrick Perkins get up on the latest edition of Road Trippin' and discuss this at length. Some parts, mind you, that I agreed with, some things, like all three of those guys, I wanted at least one of them to suit up. I wanted at least one of them to suit up. Darius Garland missed 4 games in the postseason, 2 in the Miami series that ended up being a sweep, and 2 in the Indiana Pacers series that ended up going just 5 games. Just absolutely pitiful exit. DeAndre Hunter missed 1 game, if I'm not mistaken. That was game 2. And here's the thing, to the people out there complaining that DeAndre Hunter failed to show up in a critical postseason game, the Cavs had that in the fucking bag. They had like a 95 win probability with just, I don't know, 2-3 minutes left in the game. Some miraculous shit happened. Oh, mind you, that we just saw some more playoff magic, some more late game heroics from the Indiana Pacers and their latest victory over the New York Knicks. So now the Knicks kind of feel the Cavs' pain. All I'm saying is, to the people out there that are questioning DeAndre Hunter's toughness, look, the Cavaliers really did not need him in that game. Would have been nice for him to play? Yes. But at the end of the day, the Cavaliers shot themselves in the foot. They were in a perfectly winnable situation. If you're talking to me about, well, yeah, Mac, he could have played 5 to 10 to 15 minutes and contributed something because all the other guys out there were exhausted. They were tired from the pace of play, from the style of play that the Pacers like to play, making you bring the ball up full court, putting somebody in your face with the press constantly. Yeah, that is a fair point. To that, I would say, okay, well, if you're Kenny Atkinson, why not play Jalen Tyson? Why not play Craig Porter Jr.? Why not play Chuma? Why not play Javonte Green? There are so many different things that Kenny Atkinson could have done in that game to loss that completely negates the fact that DeAndre Hunter did not play, because I can guarantee you, had he not played and they won, this is not even a discussion in regards to DeAndre Hunter. Darius Garland with the toe sprain, there is absolutely nobody out there. I don't care if you're Richard Jefferson. I don't care if you're Channing Frye. I don't care if you're Kendrick Perkins. There is nobody that is inside of Darius's body except for him. Pause. All I can say is that Darius Garland did not look even remotely the same upon returning. He had his moments. He had his buckets. He was moving the ball at times. They obviously used his ball handling and ability to bring the ball up the floor. But at the end of the day, it was clear that he just did not have that same mobility, that same burst, that same speed that he brought to the occasion, numerous occasions this season, really all season, a season in which they saw him return to the All-Star game, be at one point a lock for one of the all NBA teams, first, second, or third. That might not be the case anymore, but at the end of the day, Darius Garland was positioning himself to be to have a really, really great end to the year, and then he just experienced that toe sprain and everything went sideways. I do not question that man's his physicality. I do not question that man's toughness in that regard. If you want to talk about how tough he is when he actually steps on the court, that is an entirely different discussion. But when we're talking about injuries, I just think that people have lost sight of what actually occurred. Evan Mobley, I actually thought that Evan Mobley had rather a pretty damn good postseason, all things considered. Wasn't his best effort from a defensive standpoint in the Indiana Pacers series, but at the end of the day, there were moments throughout that series in which I legitimately felt that nobody on that Pacers sideline or in the game, nobody on the roster could stop an engaged, a aggressive, and just a Mobley that got it into his head that nobody out here can stop my drives to the rim. Nobody can stop my flurries and blitzes towards the rim. Nobody can stop the presence that I can be in that paint when I actually get those touches. And the conversation around Mobley, to me, it's not about how tough he is. It's not about whether or not he was too soft to play in game 2, mind you. To me, it's mostly about vocality. I want Evan Mobley to be more vocal about the touches that he receives. I want him to go up to Donovan Mitchell. I want him to go up to Darius Garland. I want him to discuss with Kenny Atkinson, hey, when I got it going, give me the fucking ball. Make sure that I'm the person that gets that touch, because there's nobody. I'm a clear mismatch for certain players on that opposite sideline. Nobody can stop me. Nobody can end what I am doing. From the three-point line, Evan Mobley experienced a career postseason high, shot about 45% from three-point distance in the playoffs. He shot very, very well from that range against the Pacers. He shot well against the Miami Heat in that regard. He was doing his thing inside of the painted area. You don't really see the mid-range from Evan Mobley, as he took just 2 mid-range shots. That's the one thing from an offensive perspective that I want to continue to see develop. Well, it's not the only thing. Obviously, the three-point shot you want to see. You want to consider that to be something that he continues to rise up in and showcases potential there. I want the ball handling, the ability to drive inside. I want that to be something that he continues to work on. But above all else, that mid-range area, that's up for grabs for Mobley. I want to see him continue to put in the work in that area. But the moral of the story is Evan Mobley was actually having a pretty damn good series. He truly was. They just failed to continue to get him the ball. But I'm not going to completely absolve Mobley of that as well, because he has to be more vocal about wanting those touches. He has to be more vocal about wanting the rock so that he can continue to exploit mismatches. So it's a problem all the way around. But the problem that I have with folks is that they believe that this is an issue that the Cavaliers cannot overcome, or rather, Evan Mobley cannot overcome. They just think he is soft. They think he is too quiet. They think he is too reserved. And look, I do recognize that there is a pattern here. I do recognize that people need to see it to believe it. And I do ultimately recognize that Evan Mobley himself is the only person that can dispel that notion. But I think we are far from territory where we are just writing off the complete development, the growth, and the vocality of Evan Mobley moving towards the future. Because one, he is relatively still young. He will be just 24 years of age by the time the 2025-26 season rolls around. That much needs to be said. What also needs to be said is that Mobley has shown you consistent growth year in and year out. All we need to do from all we really need to see from Mobley is to see him demand more touches. Just be more vocal. That's what it boils down to with Mobley. With Jarrett Allen, the conversation is a little bit more difficult. It is a little bit more expansive, right? It's complicated. I guess that's the best way to put it. I am as big of a Jarrett Allen fan as you will find out there, but I do ultimately recognize the failures of Jarrett Allen in the postseason. And really, it's not even the postseason, because this man was brilliant against the Miami Heat. He set some records. All right, he truly did. And people are forgetting about the performances he had against them in games 3 and 4 of that series. It was absolutely crazy shit that he was doing out there. And actually, he had a pretty good 3-game stretch against the Indiana Pacers in games 1 through 3 of that series. What ended up happening is Jarrett Allen absolutely disappeared. Went AWOL. The man was nowhere to be found in games 4 and 5. Now, at the end of the day, people will look at the stat line from both game 4 and game 5 and make a determination or make a decision or draw the conclusion, however you arrive there, that Jarrett Allen just does not have it in him. He can't perform at a higher level than he has. He is not a playoff big man. You heard Channing Frye himself say that. I don't believe that one bit. I know there's a large chunk, a vast majority of the fan base that does. A large majority of the fan base that feels Jarrett Allen is just a soft guy. They watched what happened in the scuffle with DeAndre Hunter and Ben Mathurin. You saw Jarrett Allen not do anything at all. And I'll admit this. I did not love that. If there was one thing from that series that I did not love from Jarrett Allen, it was that. Now, mind you, he was not perfect elsewhere. The rebounding in games 4 and 5, that left a lot to be desired. The effort on the defensive end, specifically in regards to the closeouts of Miles Turner and others, Jarrett Allen's effort waned. Jarrett Allen was not hustling the same way. Jarrett Allen did not look bought in. He did not look engaged. The man just looked elsewhere. He did not look like he wanted to be there. And that, my friends, is why people are saying that he is soft. That's why people are saying that he's not mentally tough. And you know what? After watching how that series ended, it is very tough to dispel that. If you're talking about Jarrett Allen, it is hard to get away from those things because they're already going to be lumped in with his failures with the New York Knicks series against Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart, and them boys over there. You had this series in which he took a shot at the ribs from the Orlando Magic. In that 7-game series, Jarrett was only able to suit up in 4. And despite very clear and definitive proof that Jarrett Allen had fucking bone fragment floating around in his body, people question his toughness then. You heard the Ribby Wibby's comment from Channing Frye. And listen, we're all spectating on how good or bad or how tough these injuries are in regards to all of these guys. But at the end of the day, Jarrett Allen is the only person that can dispel the narratives, can quiet the naysayers, and put all these things to bed that have been said about him. To me, I don't know how you watch or listen to or just read some of the stuff that's being said about Jarrett Allen, or if you're Jarrett Allen yourself, I don't know how you view all of these things and not take it personal. This is a personal attack a lot of the times on this man's toughness. A lot of people have called that into question. And you know what? The only person that can do anything about it is Jarrett Allen. All of these things combined with the Kenny Atkinson failures in terms of rotationary decisions in that series, in terms of not knowing when to go away from the damn zone. And I get it. The 3-2 zone, that masterful adjustment that he made and where he put Evan Mobley at the top of the key to help defend in that zone. That was brilliant. That was great. But I think we can all recognize that Kenny Atkinson, one of his bigger issues, not only during the playoffs, but during the regular season of points too, is specifically in the Cavs losses, where is readily apparent is that he has not known when to go away from a specific defensive coverage. And a lot of the time it is that zone. It is so there's an overutilization at times of the zone. And you saw that play out in that series, in which Indiana, okay, they say, oh, you want to throw a 3-2 zone at us. You want to put Evan Mobley at the top of the key. You want to muck things up. You want to make sure that the ball handlers don't have driving lanes to drive and kick, specifically Tyrese Halliburton and company. Okay, we're just going to shoot over it. That's what you saw Miles Turner do. That's what you saw Andrew Nimhart and Aaron Neesmith and Tyrese Halliburton and Obi Toppin and a number of other Pacers do. They shot the lights out in that series. It just felt like it was never ending. And Kenny Atkinson deserves a fair amount of criticism in that regard, just as much as we want to blame the players. Jarrett Allen's closeouts, his efforts, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, their inability to defend the three-point line at times, Max Strus, whoever else you want to discredit out there. Kenny Atkinson also deserves blame in that regard as well. You take everything, the culmination of all of these events, and you also have to lump them in with the fact that the Cavaliers did themselves no favors offensively when things stagnated. I already discussed their inability to get Evan Mobley the rock when he had it going on. They became heavily jump shot reliant. They fell back to hero ball tendencies, specifically Donovan Mitchell, and not leading on his teammates. A lot of these things occurred because the Cavaliers simply could not make a shot to save their lives. These are all things that occurred during the course of that series. Completely different team than we saw in the regular season. Completely different team than we saw in the Miami Heat series. Completely different team than we saw in Game 3. There are specific instances of just stagnation in that series where the ball is just not moving on a possession. You might see one pass and then a shot attempt. A lot of times it's Donovan Mitchell winding up with the ball, couple of seconds left on the shot clock, and Donovan trying to make something happen at the rim where he was drawing admittedly a lot of contact, a lot of foul calls. That is not a sustainable way to win a series. And it played out that way. It may win you a few games, but these are all things that contributed to the Cavaliers losing. Absolutely none of it means that the Cavaliers are doomed to that same fate next year. That is where I am at, though. You have to take everything. You got to take all the context, every single thing that you saw play out in that series, good and bad, and understand that the Cavaliers are not doomed to the same fate should they keep this core four intact. It is both possible to be disappointed in the team and their failure to get shit done after such a historically just significant season and still have optimism about their potential for internal development, internal growth. I think people think it has to be one way or another. Oh, if you're not pissed off, or rather, if you're optimistic about their chances of contending in future seasons, then you're being unrealistic about the, the ceiling of this team. If you're pissed off about their failures, that must automatically mean that you got to ship somebody out. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. Both can be possible. You can be both optimistic about the direction the team is heading and understand that the team failed in a massive way. Injuries or not. And that is what I need people to understand, or at least that's what I want people to understand. I also understand that not everybody's going to view the team in the same way. I am much more optimistic about this team's ability to move forward after this failure than others. A lot of other people see what just occurred and they say, see, we have verifiable evidence that this shit just does not work. This core four, this is as far as they can go. Donovan Mitchell cannot lead you to a championship. He cannot be a 1A on a championship contending squad. Evan Mobley is too quiet and reserved to be the best player on a championship team. Jarrett Allen is too damn soft to handle playoff contact from other big men. Darius Garland is always hurt, or Darius Garland does not show up. He's not a playoff riser. There are so many different things that are being said about this team right now. There are so many different opinions flying around out there right now. There are so many different trades that are flying around out there right now. Everything. It's just on 10 right now. It truly is. And so I think that once people collectively start to process what it truly occurred in that Pacers series, where the true failures happened for this team. It is only then where they can start to pull themselves back and understand that shit is not so far gone. It truly is not. Does that mean that the Cavaliers should just remain completely stagnant in the offseason? No. I know there's a large people that watch this channel. I know there's a large people that I interact with. I know there's a large number of people that I have conversed with that believe me to be against any trades or anti-change. That is not even close to the truth. The opinion that I have right now, and I'm going to be as candid as I can. That's the only way I know how to be. Whether you think I'm on the Cavaliers payroll or not, I am of the belief that the Cavaliers should still have optimism in the direction of this core four. I truly believe that there is still potential for growth in Evan Mobley's game. I still believe that Darius Garland can improve. I believe that Jarrett Allen can disprove some of these narratives. The problem is patience. Patience is worn paper thin, absolutely paper thin for many in this fan base. And after watching the way that things played out in that series, it's understandable, man. It's understandable why people lack patience now in this microwave era where everything has to be quick, 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 quick. And listen, I understand that title windows open and shut and what is occurring with other teams, such as the Boston Celtics. And you see the rise of the Indiana Pacers, the rise of the New York Knicks and their newly established core with Karl Anthony Towns and OG and company over there. You see teams rising and falling every single season. Every single season is a little different. And you understand that these windows can open and shut. The Cavaliers are still in a damn good position. They still have moves that could potentially be made, and they don't have to be ultra aggressive this offseason to be in a better position next year. They just don't. I know that people don't agree with that. I know people, by and large, think that they need to blow it up or move a piece of the core four. And listen, I am not opposed to a deal that makes this Cavaliers team better. There are many deals that are being suggested out there. I know a lot of people feel like Jarrett Allen for Herb Jones and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, or just a number of other trades out there that can be made that may potentially, in their eyes, make this team better. If the Cavaliers decide that they're going to break things up, which it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. It doesn't seem like they're trending in that direction. It sounded, at least at the end of season media session that Kobe Altman held, and listen, he was never going to say anything different, but it sounds as if he's still a huge believer in direction, or at least the potential. That's probably the better word. The potential of this core four. Should they decide that they're not going to stay the course with him, there are things that they can do that I believe could potentially make this team better. I don't think a Giannis deal is happening for the people out there that want to see that. To the people that think that that is a real reality or a real possibility, rather, I just don't think that's going to be the case. And I remain heavily of the opinion that the Cavaliers will be sacrificing too much in a potential Giannis deal. I know there are going to be people out there that immediately type in the comments, Mac, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. The Cavaliers have a chance to acquire a top 5 player. You just do it, no matter what else you have to do, no matter what it costs you. Even if it costs you Evan Mobley, you just do it. I understand that. And I could talk myself into believing that the Cavaliers are going to be just fine if that happens. And the reality is, if the Cavaliers did end up trading for Giannis, they would have a really, really good starting 5, depending upon what you give up. If it's Evan Mobley, Donovan, Darius, Giannis, DeAndre Hunter, Jarrett Allen, that is a damn good starting 5. The problem to me is depth, but whatever, what have you. My point is that there are things the Cavaliers can do should they decide they're going to move on from the core 4. And there are frankly things that they can do if they decide that they're going to stand pat with the core 4. They can make some moves along the margins. They can shed some salary. If you're thinking about Isaac Okoro, that's probably the most likely candidate. There are multiple options that they can pursue in regards to improving the bottom of the rotation. And to me, I think depth is important. I know that there's a lot of people out there that believe the depth didn't do shit in this series. They didn't do shit in the playoffs. They did not step up. Ty Jerome, they saw the horrific performance that Ty had. They saw the down performances that DeAndre Hunter had, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, et cetera, et cetera. And they believe that the depth is overrated, or the Cavaliers just simply don't have depth. Well, I think that there are things that they can do to improve that. And I also believe that you're not going to get the same type of performances that you got from Ty Jerome should he be brought back. You're not going to get the same type of performance from DeAndre Hunter should he remain healthy. You're not going to get the same performances from Dean Wade or Isaac Okoro if he is brought back. I don't know. There's a lot of different variables here. That's all I'm trying to say. And even if you do move on from some of these pieces, the Cavaliers do have some decent pieces in the developmental pipeline. More people should be talking about the potential of Naquan Tomlin. I think that is a guy, if the Cavaliers decide that they're going to elevate DeAndre Hunter into the role of starting small forward, you need somebody to pick up those backup power forward minutes. You need somebody who can give you some minutes at the 3 from time to time, somebody who can step in as a small ball 5. And I think Tomlin is a good opportunity to see what you have in that on the low, on the cheap, right? Because that's the name of the game. Cavaliers, should they not change anything? Should they attempt to bring back Ty Jerome? Who knows what happens with Sam Merrill? Their only real things that they can do at that point, if they don't shed the salary of Isaac Okoro, which I think many people believe they will, is likely veteran minimum contracts or, NBA minimum deals that they can hand out to fill out the majority of the roster, or the rest of the roster rather. But at the end of the day, I think that there are a number of players in that developmental pipeline, whether that be Tomlin, whether that be Craig Porter Jr., whether that be last year's 20th overall pick in Jalen Tyson. He's a candidate out there. I don't know how people as a majority feel about Luke Travers, but I know he is also somebody the Cavaliers are trying to develop. Emoni Bates is also somebody that the Cavaliers are heavily trying to invest in terms of the future with the team. At least that's the indication that I've gotten. You got guys floating out there like Khalif Diop, who Cavaliers need a big man. They need somebody who can reliably play some backup 5. Why not see what Diop can offer you? And again, these are all hypotheticals. These are all variables that the Cavaliers will have to take into consideration. These are all things that the Cavaliers ultimately will have to decide upon. And this is not even referencing any possible trades that they could make. There are some out there that I believe the Cavaliers should be looking at, should be exploring. But the reality situation is they don't have to actually shake things up in a major way to get to where they want to get to. And ultimately, that is a championship. I understand. Everybody just saw what happened against Indiana, and they believe that we have really reached the ceiling. We've reached the ceiling of what this current core can do or can be. I just don't see that being the case. I think it's both possible to be optimistic about the potential, and I think it is also perfectly reasonable to be upset about the failure that we just watched. That cannot be talked around, right? It cannot be argued. They failed. It happens. They can come back from it. If I'm trying to say anything, it's that. The Cavaliers, I think what ultimately ends up happening, they give this core one more season, and then they make changes if they need to the following season. The CBA has made things very difficult to navigate. The second apron makes things very difficult to navigate. Not impossible, but difficult. And that, my friends, is why I believe the Cavaliers will end up running it back. Maybe you believe that's the right course of action. Maybe you believe the Cavaliers are damn fools. They have all the proof they need. Who am I to tell you any differently? You're going to draw your own conclusion. All I know is that we just got to take a second, a moment to breathe, right? You have to be able to contextualize everything that occurred this season because there was legitimate progress made. But the reality situation is they also failed. And they failed in one of the worst possible ways, both from a health perspective and from a play perspective. Couldn't shoot, didn't get anything from their depth, couldn't stay healthy. They lost. Life goes on. Doesn't mean they're doomed to proverbial second round exits, but should you believe that, find something, find something to cling to going into next season, because it is more likely that this team, at least from a core perspective, remains the same. You just got to be able to pick up the pieces. You got to be able to move forward. And I think this Cavaliers team will. I know that there's probably going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. I completely understand that. So if that is the case, good or bad, let me know how you feel in the comments below, whether you believe this is utter folly for the Cavaliers to bring the core four back, whether you believe the core four has the potential to be even better than they are. Let me know in the comments how you feel below. As always, tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, send a review to itscavalier53@gmail.com. Go Cavs.